take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak!
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room.
Okay, and now we're live. So, hello, everybody. I've got another week of Pandaview movie recordings to do. And to start with, I've been given a bit of a different case this month. Normally, I'd introduce who exactly gave us this movie at the end once we've done the whole recording. But this week, I'm going to do it a little differently because Rin this month has given me a dealer's choice. She decided that she was going to let me pick the movie. And so because of that, I decided I was going to do something a little different because I haven't really shaken up exactly how we've done these movie recordings much. So I've taken the opportunity to choose my own movie and decided that I'm not going to choose my own movie. I've brought on a special guest with me who was the one who chose the movie. And I figured this would be fun because it's someone that nobody here has met before, but I've maybe mentioned a couple of times on our other podcast and thought it would be fun because also she's low-key been begging to be here. So this kind of kills two birds with one stone. I don't have to think, and she gets what she wants, finally. So with that being said, I would like to introduce the lovely audience to my sister, Tina.
Hello. What an introduction that was. I wouldn't say I was begging. That's a little strong,
did some
don't
begging.
you think?
No, I think you did some begging.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So what I did was instead of getting free reign, I told my sister here that she had free reign. And if you've clicked on this episode, so you already know what she picked. She chose the hit 1986 movie Stand By Me, and we're going to get into exactly why she chose this movie right after I read this here summary.
Mm-hmm.
Step right up, ladies and gentlemen, and feast your eyes on the newest invention from Panda Sighting Studios, a time machine. That's right. We've taken all the hard-earned money you gave us, and we invested it into something to benefit the greater good. Praise us. Now you're probably wondering what the limitations are like on this, and I'm happy to inform you that there are no limitations on this technology as long as you really only want to travel back to your 12-year-old self and basically no other point in time. Of course, it's still a time machine. Just because it's only a projector playing the hit 80s movie Stand By Me on an endless loop does not mean it's not still making me feel like a kid again. Here, let me do this. I'm going to convince you with this short summary, and I'm sure it'll change your mind. Stand By Me is a coming-of-age drama about a man who reflects on a time when he and his 3 kid friends decided to take a long walk to find a dead body. Yeah, you heard it right. The corpse of a 12-year-old boy, just like them, is the objective of this film. Along the way, the 4 boys get into all sorts of wacky hijinks. They talk about the Mickey Mouse Club, get caught trespassing in a junkyard, tell dick jokes, and insult each other's moms, and yet, in the same scene, support each other in the most wholesome ways that sometimes make these kids feel well beyond their years in emotional intelligence. Well, at least Chris and Gordy do. Vern and Teddy are kind of still at Forrest Leach level, even by the end of the film. Nevertheless, this quick little film packs its 90-minute punch, and by the end of it, just might make you pause and reflect on what it meant to be 12 and in the prime of your youth.
Was that Forrest Leach comment a foreshadowing? Perhaps?
Maybe just a tease, a little reference.
Just a little bit.
Just a teensy little reference. So, dearest sister of mine.
Yes, brother.
Please regale. I already know the tale, but please regale the lovely audience with why you've chosen Stand By Me tonight.
So, I'm so happy you asked, because Stand By Me has a very special place in my heart. I remember the exact moment where I watched it for the first time, and I can actually recall the scene that was on the screen when I saw it pop up while channel surfing at the ripe age of 15. It was I think it was just a day after school, and I was sitting on the couch and I was like, dang, I'm really bored right now. So I'm like surfing through the channels as a 15-year-old high schooler would do. instead of doing her homework, as one does. And I came across this film, and I recognized the actor that plays as Chris Chambers, who is River Phoenix. And I was like, wait, I know that guy. And I just couldn't stop watching it. I thought it was so interesting. Literally, like, I just couldn't turn it off. I was so engrossed into the film as soon as I turned it on. I don't know. I have a very long history with it.
Yeah. And so you have told me before that this film is actually probably your favorite movie of all time.
100%.
That's right?
It's definitely like my number one movie. I have a lot of other favorites. Fun fact. I don't even know if you know this, but I almost became a film major when I got into college, but then I curveballed and did something different. But this was actually the film that made me want to go into filmmaking at first. Yeah.
I definitely remember you mentioning film before, but I don't think you've ever said specifically it was Stand By Me that did that.
Yeah, it was Stand By Me. I really liked the cinematography style, and I think another thing that really drew me to it was the fact that it's an adaptation of a Stephen King short novel that I read beforehand. It's called The Body. One of his more mild stories, if I do say so myself. If anyone here is a Stephen King reader, he's quite the writer. He's definitely something. So The Body is a very mild telling of, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's a pretty mild story in comparison to his other ones. It's actually labeled as a young adult reading. It's pretty good.
Right, yeah. Did you mention the title of the novella?
Yeah, it's called The Body. It's like barely 100 pages.
Yeah.
It's very, very short.
So have you tried reading the novella before?
Yeah, I read the novella before I even watched the movie.
Oh, okay.
So I found out, I was like, wait, this plot is so familiar, but it's like, it's not ringing a bell. And then I read in like an interview once or something that Stand By Me was an adaptation of The Body. And I was like, oh, that's where I knew it from. And it literally didn't hit me until like a year after I watched it for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very excited. And I'm like, the puzzle pieces connected. The light bulb anime going off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Brain Blast.
Yeah. Literally. Yeah, that's what it felt like.
So you've kind of mentioned a few things already before between River Phoenix catching your eye and the cinematography, but what kind of keeps you coming back to this movie over and over again that it became your favorite film?
Oh gosh. The nostalgia of it. I was one of those people who really, really liked something and would force every single person that had ears and eyes, I would force them to watch it with me. And now it's gotten to a point where it's been maybe a little less than a decade since I watched it for the first time. And I can quote the movie from front to back at this point. It definitely is the nostalgia of reminding me of when I was in high school. Watching it for the first time, I remember how excited and enamored I was. I also just really love all the actors that are in it. I was a really huge fan of all of them at the time. Yeah, I mean, the story itself is it's very moving in a way because it's this older guy who looks back on his childhood and he writes about it and he really takes time to reflect and think about how things were so different from when he was a kid or a teenager even. Not even. I think there were 12. The characters were 12.
Yep.
So I think that definitely the nostalgia aspect of it. I also I like watching him look back on his life. Something about the protagonist in a film looking back on their childhood is very touching to my heart for some reason. I like to see the emotions that they go through and hearing the background narration. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a great movie for a lot of reasons, and it keeps me coming back.
Awesome. Yeah. I think I agree with a few of the points, especially having this overarching narrator, Gordy, as an older person is who it ends up being, and just listening to him sort of in certain moments recant exactly how he was feeling or what he may have been thinking in certain times of the film is an interesting way to sort of frame it and be able to tell the story not just through his 12-year-old self, but the reflection of his much older self as well. So I think it's fun. I think if I'm gonna interject my own particular opinion about the movie now, the best way I can say is that I think this was surprisingly better than I figured it would be.
Really?
I know I've seen pieces of it here and there from you watching it over time, but I don't think I ever watched it all the way through before. And so I think, I don't know, I think a movie like this, I was expecting more corny kid shenanigans stuff and not as much the coming of age and especially the relationship that you see on screen between Chris and Gordy, where they are boys that are a little bit more open with each other emotionally than you would probably usually see out of kids that age. So I think in particular that aspect of it really made me feel like it was a worthwhile movie to watch after a while. I'm going to admit that probably the first 25 to 30 minutes I wasn't as into the movie. There's just not a whole lot that goes on there that's super compelling, but then and this lends itself to why I'm bringing it up. The main point that it sort of turns for me is when Chris and Gordy are walking, kind of lagging behind Vern and Teddy, and Chris is telling Gordy that he's going to miss him when junior high starts because Gordy's going to be doing college prep courses, and the other three Chris expects to be doing regular handyman trade school stuff. So it was, and after, this is basically directly following stuff that happens in the junkyard and discussions on whether Superman is real or not and whether cartoon Mickey Mouse can take him in a fight. So to have this level of emotional reflectiveness or basically transparency between Chris and Gordy was surprising. It was a little surprising to see. And then it was fun to listen to how Chris is taking in his position as one of these Chambers kids who are notorious in their little town for being not a great family, like criminals basically, and how he really hates this lot he's been given. So I think that particular point was a bit of a turn in my opinion of the movie. So overall, I think I enjoyed this movie, and I was a little surprised by that by the end of the movie.
It makes me happy that you like it. It's really a great, it really does. It makes me really happy that you like it, since I like introducing things that I like to you and vice versa. You introduce me to things that you like. And, this was definitely one of the things that I was really, really excited about. You've got, like you were saying with, all four of them are so different, but that they all have a lot in common. And that one thing in common is that they are all so deeply misunderstood. You don't really have too much about Vern. He's just kind of like the comic relief character. And then Teddy, he's got, fighting for his life, defending the kind of person that his father is. And he holds him at such a high respect that, you kind of sit back and you're like, why does he respect this person so much that has harmed him so greatly? And then you've got Chris, who, like you said, comes from kind of like a rough familial background. And then Gordy, who kind of falls in the shadows of his brother, who is, Gordy wants to become a writer. He's very intelligent, and his parents just kind of disregard that as a whole. And I feel like his bond with Chris is really special, especially like considering the time period in which this takes place. You don't see that kind of relationship. If you compare it to other movies where I feel like, oh my gosh, this is the one thing that I always forget about this movie, about the time period it takes place in. I want to say it's like the 60s maybe, or the 70s. I don't know. I don't remember. The film itself was made in the 80s.
Takes place in the late 50s.
Oh, it was the late 50s. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of films you see that are made around this time period show like a lot of toxic masculinity and how men are supposed to be really tough. But in this story, it shows the opposite. It shows how tender-hearted a lot of young boys can be. And I feel like we don't get a lot of that in media anymore, or it wasn't super prominent in media or in tellings of that time period in film. And I think it's really refreshing to see such a strong and just a strong relationship between two guys, between four of them, but it's really the two of them that really stand out to me. I think they have a really special bond.
Yeah. It's I think it's more easily depicted in the sort of childhood stage. It's just where you're more emotionally developing. So you have the ability to end up and developing those sorts of skills. But yeah, what you don't get a lot of typically is especially full grown adult men having those sorts of interactions with each other. So there's a certain degree of innocence that comes with having them all be 12 and exposed to this relationship with each other where they can be more emotionally and intellectually available. So it is nice to see. It is refreshing a little bit. I think in the context of the movie, it's a little bit of a shame that they all lose. Well, mostly, I mean, Vern and Teddy, they lose contact with pretty quickly, but him and Chris at least go through the college prep courses together. But then Chris will go off to be a lawyer and Gordy continues to be a writer. And at that point, they kind of lose touch with each other. It seems like they don't really interact with each other anymore, which is kind of a shame to hear, like in the context of the movie, because they were clearly such good friends. You would hope that they would have stuck together with contact, and by the end of the movie you learn that once Chris dies, because that's spoiled at the very beginning, and you learn at the end that it had been like 10 years since they had last really spoken to each other, which is a little, it kind of sucks to hear. Kind of hurts, to be honest, that they lose touch so much. But that in a way it's also really it attests to the specialness of their bond, that Gordy is thinking about this 10 years after the fact and still remembering the feelings and that he had attached to Chris all those years later. So I think it's very special to see how he always just had, it seems like he always had Chris in his thoughts, even after disconnecting, or I wouldn't even call it disconnecting. I think things happen, life happens. Gordy, it shows that Gordy has a family now, and obviously it says that Chris becomes a lawyer, and it's also he goes into the towards the end of the film, Gordy goes into like how it happened to Chris, and it still shows that Chris was the exact same person that he was when he died. Like, he died trying to protect someone else, trying to stand up for what was right. And I think that's really important to the development of the film and the development of his character, to see that he never really changed and he was the exact same person that Gordy knew his entire life. Yeah. I think it's all very important. I think it ties the film up nicely. But instead of talking so much about the end, let's start at the beginning. Let's reel it back just a little bit, kind of get into a little what the movie is specifically about, rather than just talking broadly about the boys. So tell me about the beginning of the movie a little bit.
So in the beginning, Gordy, we've got older Gordy, about like a 10, 15, probably more year time skip, and Gordy is sitting in like his truck, and he's reading the newspaper, and it says that, lawyer Chris Chambers was fatally stabbed. And that's the start of like a big flashback to his younger days. And he talks about where he grows up, and it was, I believe it was Castle Rock in Oregon. And he shows him going to this big tree house that they have. And I'm like blanking now. You put me on the spot. I'm blanking.
It doesn't have to be a play-by-play. You can speak broadly. Okay, so they could fill in gaps.
They get to this treehouse, and clearly this is like the hangout spot for this group.
Absolutely.
And honestly, it's pretty nice. I wish I had a hangout spot like that.
It's pretty sick,
right? It really is. Like
that
was a big
wish
thing.
I had that.
Bro, you're telling me. Do you remember the amount of times we would beg mom and dad for like a tree house, but we had no trees that would be a good tree house?
We didn't have very good low hanging branches for something like that.
Not.
So
we didn't even have branches for a tire swing.
Yeah, just make do with a sofa cushion for it and call it a day, right?
We did have that really weird shed at one point.
Well, that was terrifying. Not fit for playing, and not for use. With very much sharp and pointy in there.
Yeah. Sometimes we'd put up a little tent,
and also near the dog poop corner.
Didn't
want that either.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Not really great ambiance for that.
No,
definitely not for guests. So they've got this sick ass treehouse going on, and it's got a radio. It looks like by the way, I don't condone underage smoking or drinking.
No,
but these kids were lighting up like it was like the 4th of July. Like, it was crazy. That was also
Yeah.
another big thing. Was like, wow, I'm never gonna smoke cigarettes. That was like the big thing. I was like,
I didn't need this movie for that. But
I mean, I was also 15 when I first watched it. I was like, wow, I'm never gonna smoke cigarettes.
and then there's also the other part later in the movie when they have their meal at the campfire and they're like, oh man, nothing better than a smoke after a meal. And I'm like, what are you saying to me
right now?
What are you
You're
talking
12.
about?
You're like 12 years old.
What is this?
You know what my favorite thing is after a meal? My bed. That's what's good after a meal. My bed.
My favorite thing after a meal is the dessert. You know, I want the dessert shouldn't be a ciggy. It should be a cupcake or a chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah,
you know,
something to take the edge off.
Fucking cancer.
When I say that I want something to take the edge off,
you can't say,
I'm talking about a chocolate chip cookie, not a Marlboro Red. Like,
I
remember.
Cannot express to you how little that sounds appealing to me.
No. It's like, especially like looking at what they had to, it was like a charred burger. I mean, listen, I like well done as much as the next person does, but like Vern dropped his whole burger into the fire onto the ground, and I'm like, that's disgusting. But my man was hungry, so like I get it.
I feel that. I probably would have done the same thing.
I would still pick
honestly.
it over the Marlboros, though. You would never catch me with a cigarette in my hand.
Of course. I would starve before the Marlboros.
Oh yeah, 100%. So yeah, they're in this awesome treehouse, lighting up like it's the 4th of July. What were they playing? I don't even know. To this day, I have no idea what card game they were playing.
I agree. I actually don't know what. I think they might have just made up that game,
probably,
whatever it is.
Because they were knocking, they were calling each other shithead. Like, I was like, what is this?
Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
And then, it's just the three of them. So Vern hasn't joined the scene just yet. So then we hear these lousy ass knocks, and then Gordy goes, that's not the secret knock. He's like, oh, I don't know the secret knock. Let me in. Everyone's like, Vern. It's Vern. Vern would be the one to not remember it. And I feel like this sets up who Vern is as a character perfectly. Like, he really is. Vern really is just some guy. Like, he's just a guy.
He's just here to have fun.
He is. Vern is here for a good time.
He's just happy to be here.
And you know what reflects that? The fact that he was like, well, I can't think of everything. I brought the comb.
Yeah.
That's my favorite line in the entire film, and I need you to know that.
That's your favorite line?
It's my favorite, like, gag quote. Like, it's my favorite funny quote. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's so funny. He's like, well, I can't think of everything. I brought the comb. And I'm like, babe, you barely have any hair on your head, and you're 12.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, he says later that he brought it for the other people. I think somebody one of the kids literally brings that up, how he has next to no hair. And he's like, I bought it for you.
I bought it for you guys.
It might have even been Teddy.
It was probably Teddy.
I think it was
something
Teddy.
About Teddy and
Teddy
Vern.
Has the most hair.
Something about Teddy and Vern. They are going to be bitching and moaning to each other for the entire film. So if you don't like watching two characters conflict for an entire film,
it's mostly Vern.
Vern is the drama, and it is established very quickly. Teddy's just there. Teddy's just like, he's chilling, and then Vern just comes all the time. And it's, and we love him for that. Vern is a great character. But, he's like, guys, you're never going to believe this. You're never going to believe this. And then they interrupt him and they start singing this song. And again, don't even know what this song is. I don't even know if it's a real song or if it's a song that was made up for the movie or what. I haven't done that level of extensive research, unfortunately, and shockingly. So they do this about 2 times, and he's like, screw you guys, I'm out of here. And then Chris is like, all right, what is it? What do you need to tell us? And this is where the story really begins, in my opinion. So yeah, in my opinion. Vern
jumps in right with the story of how, well, really older Gordy gives us some backstory on Vern first, because he talks about how Vern buried a jar of pennies for some reason and was like, I'm gonna need this later. And then he made a treasure map, and then Mom cleaned up his room and the treasure map got lost. So now Vern has somehow had to spend 9 months looking for this penny jar.
I think it's gone. At that point I would stop. But no amount of money.
It's either gone or he's just been somehow. I don't know how in 9 months you don't find it under the porch. Like, I get it, but I guess it was a small jar. But look how many holes he had.
I was just about to say that.
He should have found it in 9 months. In 9 months, he should have found it by now.
With the amount of holes that were in the ground, like, it would make groundhogs jealous. Like, it was a lot. Like, it's enough to house an entire family tree of squirrels during the winter. Well,
just the length of time alone, I'm like, why? How is this possible? I mean, I guess winter, like, you can't be outside as much, but
that wouldn't stop him.
I don't know.
Would not stop
I feel like I feel like it wouldn't stop me either. So,
I need to know how many pennies were in there, though. That must have been a lot of pennies.
Oh, I would hope so.
Yeah,
I hope it wasn't like 10 pennies. Yeah. He only showed up to the hike with 7. So
I haven't found all my pennies yet. Another favorite quote of mine from him.
That one's pretty good. So he's under there, right, looking for his pennies one day, and then his brother and a friend of his brother are.
Wait, no, this is an eyeball.
It wasn't eyeball. No, this is I don't know. I don't even remember their names. It's Vern's older brother and a brother's friend. I don't even really know if they get names.
They do. I just don't remember.
The only ones who have names in my book are Ace and Eyeball, and those are the only important ones, really. The other two are there because they're the ones who introduced the plot. They lifted a car. They hijacked a car and drove it for some reason to this service road where they found the dead body of a kid who's been missing for a while. His name is Ray
Browers.
And they find this kid's body, and now they're conflicted on whether or not they want to report it because, well, while they discovered the body, they had a stolen car in their possession. So it's like kind of a conundrum for them. But Vern hears all this, and it's like the first thing he thinks is, oh, my friends would love to see a dead body.
I have to tell my friends.
I gotta go tell my friends. We gotta go find this dead body. They're gonna. It's gonna be great. We're gonna have such a great time bonding, finding this dead body.
Maybe go camping. Almost get hit by a train. Smoke some cigs. It's gonna be awesome.
God. Yeah. I have no idea how the kid's body even got there. Allegedly, they say it got hit by a train and then flew to that point, that little service road.
I would say that's pretty likely.
Sure, why not?
I mean, if you want me to really get into it, that's a whole other podcast.
Nope.
Wrong podcast.
Nope. I do not want it. So Vern tells them, they all join in. They're like, let's go. This is great. Initially, Gordy is a little hesitant, and so is Vern, even though this was his idea. But eventually they both give in, right? So now we're introduced a little bit to Gordy's specific background because we learn about his older brother Dennis and how Dennis dies, unfortunately, in a car accident.
Yeah.
And how his parents have just been ignoring him the whole time. And so this is the first introduction to one of the boys' sort of background and being an kind of outcast or misunderstood. So we get a little bit of that. And then it's the next day and all the boys are meeting up and we get a little bit of Chris's misunderstood nature because we run into the two biggest pieces of shit you've ever known.
Yeah, they're pretty bad. They're pretty bad. As much as I love Kiefer Sutherland as the next person does, is like easily one of the worst characters he's ever played ever. And also, what is Eyeball? I it's never confirmed that that's a nickname. I just need to know his actual name, but Eyeball is a crazy ass nickname. If I found out my friends were calling me Eyeball behind my back, I'd be like, why? Literally, why?
Well, he has like a scar by one of his eyes.
Does he?
Yeah, like in that scene. That first scene, you can see he has a scar by his like left eye, I think.
Holy cow.
I think that's probably why they call him Eyeball. You've never seen that before in the entire time?
You know what's crazy? It's like I have such a strong distaste towards Eyeball and Ace that it's just like when they're on the screen, I kind of just black out a little bit.
You just look away.
Yeah, I've learned to just like I've Pavloved myself into like tuning them out completely when I see them.
What are you saying?
like they're like two of the most insufferable characters ever. And I've been watching this movie for I've watched this movie countless times, as I've said. And it's like, I'm over it. I already know what they're going to do. Just get them away. Get them out of my face.
Skip.
Yep. No, literally. I genuinely feel like I skip them. Like today when I rewatched it for like the 100th time to refresh my memory, even though I didn't need the refreshing, probably not. I skipped completely, which is probably why I don't remember his scar on the eye. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. He's Eyeball because he has a scar on his eye. Also, I just looked at the Wikipedia. Apparently, his real first name is Richard.
Richard?
Yeah. I don't know if that ever actually gets said in the movie or not. I don't feel like it does.
Who said that?
His real name is Richard.
Who said his name is Richard?
Also Ace's dick. Also, Ace's first name is John.
His first name is John?
He's John.
Okay. All right.
John
You expect me to
Merrill.
be scared of a guy named John? No
Right,
wonder
well,
he goes by
that's probably why he
Ace.
goes by Ace.
Go get him, John. Go cut them to pieces, John. Are you kidding me? I'm gonna laugh
Yeah.
at you.
Yeah, John with
John
the
and
knife at
Richard.
the end of the movie, not nearly as
My name's John, and this is my buddy Richard, and we're gonna cut your guts
Yeah.
out. Are you kidding? I'm gonna laugh, and I'm gonna take my phone out and record you because you look stupid. Are you kidding? That's crazy. That's so funny. I didn't know that. Also, Vern's brother, Billy. I remembered.
Billy.
Very late 50s names.
Generic white guy names.
Yeah, exactly. See, listen, I have nothing
doesn't-
against those names. It's just if you're gonna give me threatening characters, don't give them generic, unthreatening names.
Yeah, I mean that's why they go by Ace and Eyeball.
That's fair. Eyeball, there's nothing threatening about Eyeball to me. That's just a body part in my book.
Well, when you see the scar by his eye, then you think
That's true.
maybe, but apparently you never saw it, so maybe
That's
that
also
explains
true.
why you don't find him
For
intimidating
all I know,
at all.
you could be gaslighting me right now.
You're right, but I'm not, or am I? So anyway, we get the journey going finally.
Mhm.
After we run into the two asshats and they steal Gordy's hat, his
That
prized Yankee hat.
Pissed me off. And like I said, I've seen this movie more times than I can count. And that scene will never fail to make me mad. It really grinds my gears every single time. And I'm like, first of all, the way that he was flailing his arms trying to get that thing from Ace, I think it was Ace who took it, and then he gave it to Eyeball. And I'm like, baby, that's not doing any damage. You're a praying mantis compared to him. Like, your flailing's not going to get you anywhere.
Even less.
Yeah.
You're a fly.
Yeah, I know. And it still pisses me off because I know that if someone tried taking something of mine that you gave to me, I'm going to ask them how it feels when my fist connects with their face because that's crazy. No, because like, why did they do that? That's so mean. Like they literally just looked at them for 2 seconds and snatched the hat off of his head. Are you crazy?
Yeah, and then they put Chris in the dirt.
Bro, on the concrete, not even the dirt. They put him on the cold, hard concrete with a used cigarette against it. Well, it wasn't touching his face, thankfully, but they were like about to burn him. And it was his brother. Well, his brother watched it happen. He didn't care. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, Eyeball doesn't give a fuck.
Eyeball sucks.
Neither of those two give a fuck what happens to those kids, really, which is also evidenced later in the movie.
Yeah.
When Ace almost kills him. So,
which is really funny.
Like, for real.
It really shows the generational difference between the older brothers and like the older men in the show versus like the preteens in the show. How they're more like, they're, I don't want to say they're in touch with their emotions because I wouldn't be that generous, but like they're definitely on a different like emotional level than the older men are, if that makes sense. Like they're just assholes, these guys. Like they just suck.
Yeah.
And then the other four are very supportive and like they're like actual friends. Like they do actual friend things. I mean, besides the fact that they went to go find a dead body, personally, that's not my definition of hanging out with my friends.
It's like standard actual friend things.
No, my bad.
You ever went saw a dead body?
No, Christian, I haven't.
Oh, well, you've been missing out.
Oh, okay. Well, that's something we have to talk about later then.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying it's like standard friend stuff.
Right.
This doesn't really need to be talked about. Everyone knows.
Sure, Jan.
Yeah. I was gonna say something and then I completely forgot.
That's okay.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, to counter your point, sort of, about how the older kids and the younger kids have this gap and how the younger kids are just different. They're different in the moment, but we learn later that sometimes you can still end up falling into the trap of this small town and getting into some shit because the very end of the movie, when they update us on the four kids and what they do later on, Teddy ends up becoming like a petty criminal also. Like he tries to join the military, but he can't. And then I think he tries robbing something or someone.
He tried robbing a store, a corner store, I think.
Yeah. And then he ends up going to jail a couple times. And he sort of cleans up his act allegedly. And I think the last thing they say about him is that he works odd jobs around town.
Yeah, that's what they said.
It sort of still showcases that the cycle continues, and some people still fall into it, whether they want to or not, or that they start out good or not, so, it's open to interpretation. Like maybe Ace and Eyeball were like okay kids when they were 12 too, but I choose to believe that they were just kind of always assholes.
Ace,
just
I
makes
could
it
believe.
easier to hate them.
Ace, I could definitely believe, but Eyeball, that's up for discussion, I guess. You know who wasn't shitty? Denny. They could never make me hate Denny.
Denny was not shitty.
They could never make me hate him.
Denny either.
Denny, I'm a Denny lover in this house.
Yes. I mean, it'd be hard to hate
Right.
Denny, right? Like,
And like
the way he was.
the way that like Gordy just looked up to him so much when there's so much room for like younger sibling resenting their older sibling for being like the spotlight kid and being the favorite of both parents. Like he could have resented Denny, but instead he idolized him. He really truly adored Denny. And it shows that too, like literally till the end of the movie where you see Gordy as a receding hairline father. Like he truly, truly adored and idolized him.
Why'd you have to throw the receding hairline in there? Why is older Gordy catching strays like this? What's going on?
Hey, listen, it's just for dramatic emphasis to show how old he was.
Just like say he's old. You don't have to take pot shots
All right,
at a man's hairline.
I'm so
Come
sorry.
on.
Future older Gordy, I'm sorry for making fun of your hairline. If you're listening to this podcast right now, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, right. Then, okay. So, like, continuing with the actual movie, though, we start out on this journey and we quickly realize that we have no food.
And whose fault was that? Vern. It seems like Vern was supposed to be the one because they all looked at him. They were like, we're out of food. We don't have food.
He brought the comb.
Are they going to eat the comb? Bristle at a time?
Well,
crunchy.
I wouldn't go that far, but crunchy. Fiber.
Fibre. Yeah. Choke it down with some Marlboros. Hey guys, I forgot the food, but don't worry. I brought the comb and the Marlboro Reds and also a gun that I stole from my alcoholic father, by the way.
Yeah, well, Chris brought the gun, and at first you're thinking to yourself, well, what are we gonna do with this thing? And then
kill the dead guy.
We find a couple uses for it. Yeah, we're gonna make sure the dead guy double tap in case the zombies come.
Oh God, not that.
Yeah. That was kind of a funny scene when they reveal that Chris has the gun and they shoot. He doesn't trick
allegedly
Gordy into firing it.
Allegedly. Yeah. But it's soon discovered that they don't have food. And it seems like they pinned the blame on Vern for some reason. But like I said, don't worry, he brought the comb, so we're okay, guys. So then they take a seat on the train tracks, which for some reason I always scream at my computer screen when this happens. Like, why are you sitting on the tracks? You have all that grass behind you. Why are you sitting on the tracks? But that's just me. And then they're digging in their pockets and they're trying to find some kind of change because back then ground beef cost like 50 cents or $1. I think it was, what was it? I think because they went to the corner store and then it was like he bought some Cokes and like some buns and the ground beef, and what was it, like $1 something, $2 something?
I think just the ground beef was like $1.50, and then he spent the rest of the money on the Cokes and other snacks like chocolate or something
like that. But before we get to that, let's talk about I don't think I would call it a suicide attempt, but it was sure stupid. Teddy's little fiasco. So Teddy, Chris says that there's a train coming. He feels that the track's starting to shake a little bit. And he's like, there's a train coming. So they all get up as normal people would do if there's a train barreling towards them.
Right.
And, they get off the tracks and Teddy's like, nah, bro, I'm going to dodge it because I'm built different. And he's like, I'm going to dodge it. Don't worry. It's going to be great. Just like the beaches of Normandy, which his father did serve there.
Not like the beaches of Normandy.
I don't.
Just really not.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna dodge it.
Staring death in the face, maybe, but not a train.
No, yeah, definitely. That was the least of their problems when they were storming the beaches at Normandy, or face to face with the train. I don't know about that, but I don't know what kind of stories his father was telling him. But Chris is like, all of them are screaming at him, like, get off the tracks. You want to get yourself killed? Get off the tracks. And he's like, not buying it. He is not budging. He does not want to move. So Chris, being like the peacemaker that he is, like basically drags him off of the tracks and like throws him to the ground. He's like, are you crazy? Like they're all screaming at each other. It's a very overwhelming scene. And Teddy just can't get it through his head that he 100% would have died. Like, and he doesn't care. And that is like, again, kind of sets up the audience on how Teddy is as a character. He's very much like, I don't care. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be exactly who my dad was, which I don't know if you want to be who your dad was after he burnt half of your ear off the stove. That was crazy.
Yeah. They never really dive into exactly where he's getting all of this faith in his dad from, even though he did that. But I guess it doesn't necessarily need to have a reason at the end of the day. There can just exist this respect for his dad. So I'm not hung up on it, really.
No, I'm not either. I just think it's stupid. I just think it's a little dumb. I'm just saying, like, if you know, if someone had held my ear to a stove, I don't think I would respect them and hold them to such a high, like, respect or anything. I feel like it's
Well,
I feel like it's probably the fact that it's a boy and his father this said
I think that has
father
everything to do with
served
it.
in the military, and I think it definitely has to do with something regarding the time period that they live in. But
Without a
yeah,
doubt.
100%. So they make up and they continue on. And I think this is the part where they get to the junkyard.
Yeah, they're at the junkyard, and we do a little bit of exploring, a little bit of racing, but really at the end of the day, and then Gordy has to go off and get the food. They're just hanging around here. Really, at the end of the day, this junkyard scene is kind of only important to establish even further, I think, the idea that all of these kids are sort of misunderstood and a little bit outcast in the town, or they're at least well known, because they have this scene where the owner of the junkyard has his dog
Chopper.
try and sick balls on the kids, even though he didn't say sick balls. That's just the urban legend.
Yeah,
but
an urban legend. He said Chopper sick 'em, or like Chopper get 'em, or something like that. And then they were all like,
he says sick 'em, and they go sick balls.
Yeah. I think it's such a funny part of the movie, because then Gordy like hops over the fence and he looks at the type of dog that Chopper is. He's like, that's Chopper? And I, similar to Gordy, was expecting like a really large dog and not what looked like something that had the threat level of like normal SpongeBob. Like, he looked like a very kind little golden doodle, but clearly he wasn't, because he was biting at what was it, Teddy, that was like shoving his ass through the fence?
Yeah, he's at least a little nippy.
Definitely.
But ultimately, still adorable.
He was
looking.
adorable. And you know what? I hope that Chopper lived a very long and happy life, sicking people's balls.
Yeah, me too. Sick balls, dude.
Yeah, sick balls in heaven, man.
Yeah. So then they have this scene of the owner of the junkyard sort of giving them what for. The kids are cursing at him, but the junkyard guy is like, I'm going to tell all your parents. I know every single one of you. You're all shitheads, and you're gonna get whooped by your parents
all
for
your
this.
fathers are gonna get a call from me.
Yeah, and he's especially laying into Teddy, because Teddy's dad, we learn, is in an institution for probably PTSD associated with fighting in World War II, and it's just, this guy's really laying into Teddy, and it sucks. And Teddy afterward is extremely upset by it. And this is probably, I think, the first instance, really. This is even before Chris talks to Gordy about college. This is the first scene of all of the boys like really being there for each other, because Teddy's really sad and upset about this, and they're walking with him. I think Chris has an arm around his shoulder and is sort of giving him a bit of comfort, and they're all talking to him about how, you know, the old bag of a guy running the junkyard doesn't mean anything. His opinion doesn't matter, so on and so forth. So, you know, that part especially was a little nice to sort of showcase it. I've already mentioned that the real turning point for me was Chris and Gordy talking, because their relationship is just a little more compelling than that with Teddy and Vern. So, you know, these sorts of events all happen like right after another, where this thing with Teddy happens, they comfort him. Chris talks to Gordy about college and living a good life after that, and it's very sweet. And then we get to the next like major crossroad, which is this bridge over some water.
God. Dude, when I tell you, this scene gives me so much anxiety multiple years later.
This scene just annoys me.
Like, Vern pisses
honestly.
me off. And Vern pisses me off a lot. But like in this scene in particular, I'm like, bro, get up. Like, quite literally, get up. Get the hell up.
Yeah, I was just annoyed because when they're talking about how, you know, a train could be coming and it'll take 10 minutes to get over the bridge, and we just need to go. I'm like, yes, if you're going to do this, you just need to go. Don't walk. You can run it. Run it now instead of walking it. There's gaps in between the wood, but like,
not that big of a gap.
Just
run, dude.
Just run it. I don't get it. They should just run it. And it would have saved them all the trouble in the beginning. Vern is clearly too clumsy and is fucking crawling.
They lost the comb.
And then we lose the comb, the biggest tragedy of the entire movie, honestly.
Yeah, that's the climax of the film to me, personally. Losing the comb is the biggest climax of there's no resolution, just losing
the whole movie just goes down.
The comb falls into the water, the screen goes black, the end.
You start hearing Stand By Me in the background.
Yeah, exactly. That's the end of the movie. I would have ended it right there.
Yeah. They probably should have, because we lost the best character at that point.
The comb was actually a paid actor.
Oh, all right, never mind. He deserved to die.
Whoa, what?
The comb. Yeah, the comb probably drowned in the water.
Yeah.
Comb didn't make it out of there alive.
Yeah, but he was a paid actor, so he was getting a salary in his final days. He was earning $1 in his final breaths because combs have lungs.
They really should have just ran. I don't get why they didn't just run across.
It infuriates me that these dudes, even Chris and Teddy, I expected them to like go full speed ahead. But like Gordy, I could see him speed walking, but like Vern, that's crazy. Like the way that he didn't even give it a try. He immediately just went straight on all fours, hands and knees, crawling across this bridge, this very long bridge. Like, I'm not talking about like, I don't even know. It was a long ass bridge. And and then
of course the train comes
and of course Gordy gets stuck behind him too. And if Gordy wasn't there, Vern definitely would have died. Vern 100% would have died.
Vern just laid the fuck down. He tripped and he just stayed there. He was like, all right,
nah,
this
bro,
is it for me. I'm done.
Leave me behind.
Yeah,
we lost the comb.
Done. I'd rather die than
run.
We
lost the comb. Now it's my turn. There's nothing left for me to live for.
Comb. I'm joining the comb in the afterlife. This is it.
It's crazy.
I know more.
It's like it genuinely still infuriates me how he just clung to the tracks. I'm like, babe, you got to get up. We're not losing Gordy to this. And we've got Teddy. We've got Teddy and Chris going full speed ahead. Now they're going full speed ahead. They run to the other side of the tracks and they're like screaming at them. Gordy is on top of her and being like, get the fuck up, dude. I'm not trying to die today. And
I'm trying to write novels,
I'm trying to reminisce. Like, I don't want to do this. So he basically grabs Vern by the collar and yanks him up and like pushes him to the end of this track. And they barely make it. They like fling themselves into this like dirt ditch that looks like it's a decent drop, in my opinion. I'm like, damn, they don't have any broken bones. And it was rocky. I'm like, how does no one have a concussion right now? They walk away with a couple, like no scratches, actually. I don't even know what I'm saying. Like, they had no scratches for some reason, because I could hit my leg on, like, the softest little top, like, exactly. Witchcraft. Like, I could hit my knee on like my bed frame and I'm bleeding at the source. So I don't know what that's about. That's like some witchcraft. So whatever. But, they walk away as if like nothing happened. And this is when, we get a little time skip into the later in the day. And they set up camp and they're like, Gordy, tell us some stories. Oh yeah, this is the part where Vern drops his burger into the fire and still eats it, even though it probably has like a worm in it now.
Nah, it's fine.
No, yeah, it's fine. Because don't worry, he's gonna wash it down. Oh God, awful! One of the worst scenes I've ever seen in cinematic history.
When you first watched this, what was going through your mind during Barfel-Rama? You remember?
Funnily enough, I was actually eating strawberries. I was eating berries. So that wasn't great. And when I say that I didn't eat blueberries and strawberries for like a good couple months after that, it was kind of crazy. Like, oh yeah. So that was part of one of the first scenes that I saw from the movie. Like when I turned it on, it was the train scene and it immediately went into the Barfel-Rama scene. It was the very end. I remember because literally the first thing I heard was train. That's it. And I was like, wow, I'm into this. Cut to the next scene. People are barfing at each other. Right. Like it was not great. It was a very rude awakening for my...
I love this, but I hate this.
Yeah. And I was like, should I turn this off? I almost did.
Have I had enough?
I think I've had enough of this. But It was literally, when I tell you it was River Phoenix that kept me into it, it was the only reason why I kept watching, because of River Phoenix. I used to love him and I still do. But yeah, so, Gordy, being the amazing storyteller that he is, starts telling this random ass story about this I guess bigger kid, let's use that term, to describe him.
He claims that Lardass
is crazy, first of all.
He claims that Lardass is their age and 180 pounds. That kid is not 180 pounds.
Well, clearly this actor was probably wearing like a bunch of padding underneath, because you could tell under the clothes that it was not real.
They overdid it though. If they were going to go for 180 pounds, wow, 300 pounds easy.
300? You're being generous, Christian.
300 easy.
Maybe that.
Insane. They want you to believe. That's the worst part of the
I feel
movie. They want you to
bamboozled.
believe that Lardass is 180 pounds.
Honestly, in that very moment, I thought I was being gaslit by this film. I was like, "Are you sure?"
Were.
Exactly.
We were.
I was. You're right. I should sue them for emotional damages. Anyway,
It's a little late for that. Probably.
Yeah, it is a little bit. So. It takes place at this like pie eating contest in their county. I think it took place in their county, probably. Not that it really matters. And, it's this whole big ordeal. And there's like maybe 4 or 5 other contestants. And then there's this one guy who's apparently like a champion. Like everyone was betting on him. Even the mayor was like, yeah, I'm betting on you, pretty boy. Like, you're going to win me my $10, which apparently was like a ban back in the day. $10 back in the...
That's a lot of money.
It is. It could buy you multiple steak dinners. So they sit down for this, and then literally as they're about to say, okay, ready, set, go, these 2 dudes in the audience go, hey, Lardass, chow down, wide load. And when I tell you I was gagged when I heard that, I was like, why would they say that to him? That's a crazy thing to say to someone. And then the mayor laughed at that. That's the part that gets me. Like he giggles a little bit, and he's like, okay, go. And then,
yeah,
it cuts to a scene where Lardass is just like destroying these pies to a point where I'm like, I have to look away. This is intense. And he's like chowing down, going through these, like, I think in the first minute, he's going through like 3 pies. Like, I felt nauseous watching it. And then Gordy says, well, he was planning this big thing for all the people that bullied him his entire life for being big. And it cuts to, right before he goes on stage, he's like chugging castor oil, eating raw eggs, which, by the way, is probably a reason why I hate runny yolks because of that.
There's no way this is the reason.
Christian, I'm so sensitive. Like, this can't shock you.
Yes,
Christian.
This being the reason, the movie?
Yes, 100%. Like, and then the thing, have I ever told you why I don't like mayonnaise for a similar reason? I watched someone eat it like it was pudding once, and I was like, no, I'm done with mayonnaise.
Are you sure it wasn't just really pudding in a mayonnaise jar?
I don't, but the visuals scarred me for life, brother. Anyway, back to the film. So he's like eating things that shouldn't be put in a human body ever, or at least in that way. No one should ever eat raw eggs or down castor oil like that. So while he's eating these pies, he's, got this storm brewing in his body. And then he's thinking about, like, instead of eating pie, he was eating like cow guts or something. Like, what was it again? Was it cow guts or something?
I don't know. Just gross shit.
Just things that shouldn't be put in your body. So he stands up and you hear this awful, awful sound come out of this man's body. You don't know what end it's coming out of, but it's not going to end well. That's for sure. He turns to the guy who everyone's betting on, pukes blueberries and pie insides all over this dude, and just completely just creates this barfception, if you will.
Yeah, well, that's what he calls it.
He calls it a barfarama.
I think he calls his I think Gordy calls the story barfarama.
Yeah, and everyone in the audience is puking on each other. People are puking in their purses. Old ladies are puking on old men. It's crazy. It's a lot. And I also would like to talk to the writers of this scene, because how did they think of this? Because this is crazy. Well, not the writers of the scene. I want to talk to Stephen King.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you want to talk to Stephen King.
I need to talk to Stephen King about a lot of the things he writes.
At which point you already know, because it's Stephen King. He wrote worse shit.
Yeah. So that was definitely a scene. That was definitely something.
That was a scene of all time, for sure.
It definitely took the cake, or it took the pie, but sorry. I apologize.
So all of this is like immediately followed then by some more camp stories, and the important part here afterwards is that we get this story again. Well, not again, but we've been hearing a little bit about this milk money situation that happened at some point, and so finally now we're getting this full story with Chris telling Gordy, and man, it's heartbreaking, man, listening to him recount this story about basically how nobody trusts him.
Yeah, it's sad.
And he did steal the lunch money, the milk money, but he felt bad and went to go give it back. But because the teacher's such a piece of shit, she pockets the money and lets Chris continue to take the blame so that she can buy a new skirt. Yeah,
it teaches you to literally trust no one, because, it's really sad, because he trust no hose, for real. Trust no hose. he is such a sweet kid, and he, it wasn't good of him to take the money, obviously, but he realizes that, and he was like, I want to give it back. And then this fuck ass teacher was like, I don't care. I'm gonna go get that skirt that I saw in the window. Yeah,
Terrible.
awful.
Utterly terrible.
Literally awful. And it made me feel so awful and so bad for him, because you could tell that he genuinely regrets it. And now he's got like this like rep on his back that he's like this thief. Even Gordy's dad is like, oh, you're friends with a thief? That's crazy. Why can't your friends be more like Denny's friends? Like, which again, insane thing to say
Awful.
to your child. Like, that's insane. He's got such a bad rep on his back, but he doesn't deserve any of it. He's such a good character.
Yeah, I have a minor, I'll call it a fun fact, even though it's not necessarily fun, about this scene. Apparently, when they first went to film this scene, the director, Rob Reiner, thought that River Phoenix could do a slightly better job of emotionally conveying what was going on. And so he instructed Phoenix to think of a time when an adult had let him down. And have you heard of this?
Yes, I have.
And Phoenix did. And so you get the result that we got in the movie. But even when they cut, River Phoenix was still so upset thinking about it that they had to like stop the production for a little while. And Rob Reiner apparently comforted Phoenix for a little while afterward.
Yeah, it's so sad when you know the backstory behind the emotions of the scene, that they were raw emotions. They did something similar.
Yeah.
Well, it's a very common acting technique, but one that really stands out to me is the one from The Shining. Multiple scenes from The Shining, I should say.
Enlighten me.
God, where do I even start? The scene where,
just give me like one.
The scene, the one that stands out to me in particular is the scene where the female protagonist is running away from the antagonist. It's been a while. I don't remember anybody's name. And he's like chasing her up this like flight of stairs and like swinging this axe at her. Like, it was such an intense scene for her that, first of all, it was a real axe to convey more fear into her. She had to check herself into like a hospital for multiple weeks afterwards because she was recovering from filming that singular scene. It was bad. It was really, I mean, I could be completely wrong on this. I could be talking out of my ass, but that's what I remember from one of my film classes. It's an acting technique. I don't know what it is, but it's intense.
Yeah.
But
so meanwhile,
River Phoenix was such a fabulous actor, especially as a kid. Yeah. He was so good, especially considering how like his background. Do you know his background?
Not really.
His family was in a cult. He was raised in a cult.
I see.
Yeah, it was. He and his family had a really, really rough upbringing. It was tough.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Yeah, it was really rough for him and all of his siblings. I mean, Joaquin sometimes talks about it too, in regards to like how his family was raised, and I think the cult was called the Children of God, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but from what I remember.
You're the expert, not me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the Children of God. It was something that combined the hippie lifestyle with Christianity. It was really strange. It endangered a lot of families and children. So the Phoenix family had a very, very long and tough upbringing, and they eventually escaped, but it's devastating. There's a couple documentaries on it, and I wrote about it a couple times for essays and stuff pertaining to the topic.
What this probably I don't think it's related, but I have no idea. I know Phoenix is or rather River is dead.
Yes.
How did he die?
So he actually died from an overdose.
So it has nothing to do with the actual cult stuff.
No, I mean, yes and no. He dealt with a lot of mental health problems. He was really young. I think he's at the same age that I am at right now when he died. I think he was like 22 or 23 when he passed away. He actually died at Johnny Depp's club. I think it's called Viper Room or something. I could be wrong. So he died of an overdose of some kind. I don't remember what, but there was like an insane level of toxicity in his blood from like multiple things, like alcohol, various drugs. Like it was really sad what happened to him. And Joaquin, you can see it in him. You can see it in his acceptance speeches that he still mourns him to this day. Everyone mourns him. He was such a special talent. Like I've seen so many of his films. And it makes me really sad thinking about how someone so talented had to go through such a horrible upbringing, such a scary upbringing, an unpredictable one at that, and how probably a lot of young actors had to go through something similar. because you never ever know the full story when it comes to young child actors.
Yeah, it's really rough.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate. I think I vaguely, maybe as you were talking about it, remembered sort of some of the cult stuff.
Oh my gosh, and he was a very
I don't know the
talented
depth of it.
guitar player too. He knew how to sing and he knew how to play.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was really talented in like so many aspects. All of his siblings, I think he has 4 or 5 siblings. I could be wrong. But besides Joaquin, being the actor that he is, the decorated actor that he is, I personally am a very big fan of Joaquin Phoenix. He actually talks about River a lot in like his acceptance speeches. There's this one quote that stands out to me a lot that River was notorious for. It was "Run to the rescue with love," or I think it's "Run to the rescue with love and peace will follow," I think is the quote, or it's vice versa. I'm not sure, but it's a really lovely quote. And you can tell that Joaquin carries River with him every single day that he is living. And it's really special. You could tell that they probably had a really good bond growing up. Yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah. Well, anyway, going back to the film.
Tiny violin.
Yeah, just steering us back on track.
Like a train track, but
like a train track.
Exactly.
Kill
now,
me.
Now, what is Goofy?
Surely he's a dog, right?
That's what I thought. So, for context, they're telling all of these stories, and they're just kind of like doing random ass conversations at this point. Which, first of all, I would like to verbally berate Vern for saying if he could have one food for the rest of his life, why the fuck is it cherry Pez? Are you kidding me right now? Yeah,
totally insane.
Every single time I watch that scene, I'm like, are you kidding? Are you serious? Be so real. In the 50s, that's what you want? A cherry Pez that you could get for virtually no money?
The best thing ever for him.
That's true. Like, I have never once in my life been like, damn, I could really go for some cherry Pez right now. Like, do you have any idea how crazy that sounds?
Yeah, never.
Never, ever. And then they go into this thing about like, it's like if Pluto's a dog, Donald's a duck, Mickey's a mouse, what's Goofy? He's a dog. He has to be a dog. Just because Pluto's not a talking one doesn't invalidate Goofy's dogness.
Yeah, I agree.
He's got to be a dog. End of discussion. There's no way he's anything else. What do they think he is? Because the whole they all say dog.
Don't come to a conclusion.
They all kind of just want, he has to be a dog. What else would he be? Not once in my entire life of being a Mickey Mouse Clubhouse consumer have I been like, damn, he definitely does not look like a dog at all. He has to be. There's like no other description. I have to.
I'm not even going to look it up. I'm so sure.
I will reincarnate Walt Disney myself. I will conjure him in my very room and I will ask him.
Oh, that's fine. All they have to do is take his body from the basement of Disney World and unfreeze him.
Yes. I'm actually about to buy a plane ticket. How did you know?
Oh, I tapped into your money.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I actually own all your money. You're welcome.
Damn, you got me there.
So in the meantime, while the little kids were out hiking, the big kids were admitting their secrets. So Vern's older brother and the other
as
one,
they're branding each other.
Eventually, this is a different part. I don't even care about this part. They're just arguing.
Oh yeah,
and they're cutting each other and giving each other this fake ass cobra tattoo thing. But after that, later on, they end up telling, one of them tells Ace and one of them tells another, I think Eyeball probably. And then after that point, the entire gang knows. And so the big kids are finally like, oh, okay, well, we're going to go find the body and we're going to pretend that we have saved it. We were fishing in the woods and we found this body and now we're heroes.
Or so they thought.
And that's what they've decided to do. And so they set out in 2 cars. And boy, let me tell you, this is skipping forward a little bit, but that scene of them playing chicken with each other and then Ace is just gunning down this truck full of logs. Oh boy, did that fucking piss me off.
It's giving Final Destination a little bit.
Final Destination. He's just an asshole.
He's not smart.
The truck driver just has to veer off course because he is the bigger person and doesn't want to cause a crash, and instead ruins all the logs and all that work that he had to do.
Good logs that he had just gotten.
The perfectly stacked logs.
They were perfectly stacked. And do you have any idea how hard it is to stack that many large ass logs onto a truck like that? Are you kidding me? Ace is the worst. This just confirms that Ace is the worst character in this entire film.
For sure.
He's just not a good person, and it will slowly just become worse and worse and worse as the film develops. Like, he just sucks. And the guy who he was playing chicken with, one of his other buddies, he was like, hey, I think we should probably stop. Hey, we should probably stop. Hey, we're gonna die. Can we please stop? And Ace does not care. He's like sipping his Corona. Like, he doesn't care. He's like, the whole time.
Love that. Drinking and driving.
Right.
Love
the whole
it.
time, I'm like, I hope he chokes on that toothpick. I really hope that toothpick gets lodged in his throat because he was pissing me off. He always had that stupid ass toothpick in his mouth.
Yeah. So then that all shit happens, and then we flash back to the young kids where they're trucking through the woods again, taking this shortcut, and we've ended up crossing this what looks to be a shallow puddle in the woods.
Oh dear.
Except it's not.
Except it's not.
And dude, when Chris picked up the stick and tapped the first 2 inches of the water and went, it's shallow enough, and then threw the stick away. Just keep the stick.
Right.
Just keep the stick and keep going. And so but they don't, and they immediately fall in. And at first, it's a grand old time. We're all covered in shitty, muddy water. Everybody's annoyed. We're going to dunk each other. And then...
family bonding.
And then...
dun, dun, dun.
And then...
dun, dun, dun.
And then leeches.
Oh, God. I think this is where my issue with forests and rivers and ponds came from. Leeches, man. This scene...
you know, dude, this one I can't blame you for.
This is like, oh my God. And I would like to just put in that the Chris throwing away the stick is the equivalent to someone picking up a large stick to go hiking, and they only use it for shallow land, and then they throw it to the side when they're about to go up a rocky hill. That's exactly what the equivalent to what Chris did was.
Yeah,
it's like
crazy.
Kind of insane. But like, oh my God, the leech scene, like they see, what was it, Vern? They saw it on Vern's neck. They're like, nah, man, you like actually got leeches on you. And they go, leeches! And they all run out of the water, rip all like their shirts.
So many leeches.
Dude, oh my God. I literally have never felt my skin crawl more. And it still does that to me to this day. I'm like, that's disgusting. This is why I don't go swimming in bodies of water. Like it was, oh my God, there were so many. They're like, and they're big leeches. I didn't realize leeches were that big. I don't know if it was like just for the movie or if leeches really are that big.
No clue.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Thank God we don't know from personal experience. Thank God.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's insane that for the short amount of time that they spent in that puddle that they got that many leeches on them. It's kind of crazy.
I don't know the science behind like leeches and how quickly they leech onto things.
All right, you gotta stop.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'll end this shit right now. I don't care.
You mute me and you just hear the Discord hang up sound. You're like, that's it for today, guys.
I do the last 10 minutes by myself.
Yeah, exactly. But so
I got games to play. And no, I mean like games for the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if I have to kick you off, we don't get to play those. And I love that part of the episode.
All right.
So
I'll tone it down. I'll tone it down.
You're just not.
I'm so sorry.
Please. Let's fast forward a little bit here. So we get all the leeches, and
are you gonna
Gordy
talk about
ends
the
up with
final
one
leech?
on his nuts.
Yeah. And the way that it went silent, everyone was like pin drop silent. And it was like he just slowly drags his hand back up and there's this big ass leech. It's huge. Like, I don't know if they did it for dramatic emphasis, but this leech was fucking huge. This was a huge leech.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait. And then he just completely faints. And everyone's like, oh shit, Gordy, are you okay? You okay? Unresponsive at one point. Oh my God. Yeah. What a scene. What a scene. Eventually he does regain consciousness and they're all like, we should probably go home. And then the three of them, Chris, Vern, and Teddy kind of just get into a little fiasco. And Gordy's like, shut up. I'm not going home. I'm not a pussy. Or something like that. And they trudge on like nothing happened. Like there wasn't a huge ass leech attached to his body parts. Yeah.
And then more or less, we basically roll right into them actually finding the body finally. So the movie doesn't shy away either from showing you the corpse of
Ray Brower,
this 12-year-old boy. I'm sure you realized it by now, but for the audience at home, fun fact, this is a rated R movie. This is a rated R kids movie.
Kids movie? Kids movie, Christian?
Well, it's about a bunch of 12-year-old kids.
It's not a kids movie. That's bold.
This is a rated R movie. So we get there's a lot of cursing, and so this also extends to being able to just show a dead body like this, which is fine. this was the part where I was like, oh, right, rated R movie. Because you would think maybe they would shy away from showing the body of a 12-year-old dead person, but nope, we don't care. There it is. So we find it, and not very long after so first Gordy has this breakdown where he is looking at the body but he's thinking about Denny.
This was very sad. And this hurt me. He constantly carried that guilt that every time his father looks at him, he just is like oozing with resentment towards Gordy. And he basically is just like, I know how my dad feels about me, and I wish it was me that died. And that could be for a number of reasons. It could be, I wish I died so I didn't have to feel the resentment of my father on a regular basis, or I wish it was me because Denny deserved to live a real life, a long life. It's a number of things that come to mind when he says this to me, because I was there.
Directly to you.
I was actually Chris. That was me.
Whoa.
Yep, plot twist of the century. Got him. So
you're River Phoenix?
I am in the flesh, and then I take off my voice filter, and I'm like a full-grown man. No. So that was a very emotional scene. And then fucking the Peanut Gang shows up, guns a-blazing. Ace has got this
puny... Well, they didn't have the gun.
Well, they had this puny-ass, pathetic-looking knife. Like, was it small? Probably. Ace doesn't...
Well, I wouldn't... It was a switchblade.
Oh, yeah, it was a switchblade.
It's going to do damage.
Yeah, so they show up.
It's not a puny knife. It's a knife.
Yeah, it is a switchblade. That is...
It's a knife.
It's a knife! What do you have? It's a knife. So, they're like, hey, we want that body. We really want that corpse. We want it so bad, and we want to be heroes. Do you? Are you sure you want to be heroes? Because given your track record, that's the last thing you would be. And then, Teddy and Vern kind of run off after they see that Ace has a knife. And then Eyeball is just like, Chris, what are you doing here? And then, Ace starts to threaten Chris because he's like, nah, you ain't getting this body. Like, this is not, we found it first, which I think is like a really crazy argument to have. Like, we found the dead body first. It's ours. No, that's my dead body. Like, I just think that's a really funny argument to have.
It is. Yeah. It's kind of a weird out of context if you think about it.
It's my dead body. And I was expecting them to like play tug of war with this fucking guy at this point with the limbs of this kid. So, Ace is continuously just threatening Chris. Like, he's ready to go. He's ready to slit this kid's throat. And then literally right as he's about to do it, gunshot. Not at anybody. The camera pans and we've got Gordy with a gun in it, with Chris's gun. Well, Chris's dad's gun. And he's like, step away from Chris and step away from the body. And I'm like, okay, Gordy has a backbone. Love to see it. Standing up for his friends, protecting his friends. And like, this is truly the first time that you see Ace kind of like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. Like, he really does take a step back a little bit and is like, oh my God, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, well, first it's like, first he thinks Gordy's playing him and isn't going to do shit. So Ace isn't scared at first. But then Gordy puts on just the meanest look he can
for
muster,
Gordy
and also says just the most perfect stuff to. This is one of the coldest lines in the whole movie. I fucking this was crazy when Ace says, what are you gonna do? Shoot all of us? And then Gordy cocks a gun back and goes, no,
just
Ace,
just
crazy. You. I was like, oh
yeah. The crowd goes wild.
That's so sick.
Crowd goes wild.
And
then he drops the second best thing Gordy has ever said. He said, suck my fat one. And I go, he did not just say that. And even Chris was taken aback, because then the fucking Peanut Gang backs up. They're like, all right, we'll get off your tail. At what cost? Which to me was a little bit of a foreshadowing a little bit. I kind of like played into that at first. I was like, wow, Ace is really threatening Chris right now. What if he was the one who killed him at the end, which obviously is never proven, and it probably isn't true, but whatever.
Yeah, seems very
it's very unlikely,
to be true.
But it definitely does tell some sort of foreshadowing to Chris's death. Not saying that he was the one who did it, but you know what I'm trying to say?
I hear what you're saying, but I think
like
ultimately it's just weird. It's just silly dramatic effect that means nothing.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
Because it's so far into the future. I know Ace says they'll never forget this.
He probably forgot about it the next day.
It's like 50 years. They're in their like 60s when I assume at the end of the movie.
I would assume so.
So it's like 50 years later. What's even the point of that? I mean, if Ace kept the grudge for that long, then
he has issues. He has more issues, more fish bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
So they back off. And then Chris is like, really? Suck my fat one. Seriously, Gordy? Classy. Which, honestly, and then fucking Vern and Teddy just show up like, hey guys, what do we miss?
We're back.
Good job. So proud of you. Like, very much giving Kris Jenner, you're doing great, sweetie. Like, it was so funny to me. Just like, they just come out of nowhere. And I'm like, really? Now you're going to show your faces after Chris's throat almost got slit and Gordy almost shot someone point blank. Like, I thought that was really funny. It was a very intense scene. It was a very good scene, to say the least. Yeah, so then they ultimately decide that, Vern was like, oh, so we're going to take him, right? And Gordy, being like the morally just person that he is, he's like, no, we're going to do an anonymous call. I don't think we should be acting this way over a dead body. We shouldn't be happy to turn in this dead body. It's not something that we should be proud of. He died and it's sad. And, this is a person, not an object, which I really think made me respect Gordy even more, if that was even possible. Because I love Gordy. I think he's such a good character in so many ways. I find myself relating to him a lot in some aspects of his personality. So I, count on Gordy to be the one who makes the right decisions in the group. Like, you can tell that he is that person.
Yeah. Between him and Chris.
100%. Yeah.
The friend group, unfortunately, doesn't really last much longer than that. We start getting the epilogues after this. They make the anonymous phone call.
They go back home.
The body's found. They make the walk home, and they just start. They say their goodbyes in the day. And they say they'll see each other in junior high, but it turns out that they don't really ever speak much besides Chris and Gordy.
Like, a literal quote from the movie, they just became another face in the hallway, which again is a very telling, it's very real. It's a very real thing to happen when, you're transitioning from 8th grade into your first year of high school. You sometimes you don't keep the same friends because of various reasons, but they become another face in the hallway.
Well, no, they were going into middle school.
Oh, that's right. But even so, it's a big change between, changing your, what's it? I don't even know.
This is elementary school and middle school.
What was it? I thought they were going into 8th grade, because 7th and 8th grade are considered middle school.
Well, they're 12.
Oh, they are 12.
So they're probably going into 6th grade. They said they're starting junior high, so it should be 6th grade. True.
But regardless, I think it's a very real thing to happen when you're transitioning into a different school level, to sometimes lose your original friends and just lose contact with them, and they become another face that you see. It's sad that, you'd think that, the bond that they had would be strong enough to, change that outcome, but it really did just end up being another case of we just grew apart, and it's sad to see. And I expected it to happen with Gordy and Teddy and Vern, but it seems even Gordy said that him and Chris stayed friends throughout the college level courses, and they helped each other. And he was talking about how Chris toughed it out like he always did, which I thought was a really nice line, because it really does show how Chris is as a person. He's very tough and very goal driven. And I think that a big part of that is from the fact that people are constantly underestimating the kind of person he is, and how smart he is, and how driven he is as a person.
Yeah. It's because they've all just made that association, right, with the Chambers family.
It's guilty by association.
They're all just going to be worthless.
That's literally it. Everyone was just like, oh, he's just going to be another dirtbag like the rest of his family, when he's honestly probably the best thing that's ever come out of that family. We don't know much about his parents or his father. We only know a little bit about Eyeball. We know what kind of person Eyeball is, but we don't know anything else about Chris and his family. We know that his dad's an alcoholic and that he sucks, and that's really it.
Yeah, welcome to dad's coming back from the war in the 50s.
True.
And also the middle of nowhere in some of these states.
What did he say? 1,200 people lived in?
Yeah, it was that town.
Small, very small town.
Yeah. But I mean, the movie at that point really just wraps up with future Gordy again. and he's sitting at his computer typing in the Matrix, and he types out the last couple of lines, and his son and his son's friend are like, "Hey, we gonna go to the pool now, or it's been an hour, Dad. Can we like go? Can we go now?"
This
Can we
was
do
my
this?
favorite part of the film, where he's writing that last couple of words, those last couple words. As someone who wants to become a writer, I know the feeling that he had when he thought of that line. And the line was, and I know this, like it's tattooed into my eyeballs. I've never had any friends later on like the ones I had when I was 12. And then he says, "Jesus does anyone." And for some reason, that line has just stuck with me, because that is something that is so true for so many people. I mean, when I was 12, I'm not friends with anyone that I was friends with when I was 12. But I feel like, again, that just is a very prominent thing for a lot of people. And seeing the look in his eye when he thought of that last bar, he was like, "Yeah, this is going to be a nice ass bar. This is going to be fire." He was like, "I'm about to write the bar of the century." Because like you saw that. I love a good breaking the fourth wall sort of bit, where I know that the camera is supposed to be in the position of his computer screen, but still it is doing like a bit of breaking the fourth wall, which I love. He types that last thing, kind of like chuckles a little bit, turns off his computer, and then he goes out to his kid and his kid's friend. He's like, "God, you've been at this for an hour. He gets so weird when he writes." Honestly, that's probably going to be my future kid saying that when I'm trying to take him to like soccer practice or something. Like, "God, she always gets like this." And then it cues to the song "Stand By Me." If I'm not mistaken, it's by Ben E. King. Phenomenal song. I could be wrong. Yeah, it cuts to that, and that's it. That's the movie. Yeah, it's Benny King. I was right. Okay. Had to put some respect on his name real quick. Gotta make sure. Yeah, and that kind of just is the end of the movie. Cuts to the credits. Yeah, that's it. That's Stand By Me. When the night.
So
It's a great song.
I don't know the lyrics.
Oh my gosh, it's such a good song.
I won't deny that. I just don't know the lyrics.
Do you want me to sing it for you right now?
No.
Because I can. I can
It's
totally
enough.
do
No.
it for you.
You've done enough talking. Trust me. They're gonna be sick of you.
No, they're going to be asking me to come back as soon as this episode comes out.
No, they're gonna be begging me
No,
to
that's
never let
not
you
true,
on again.
and you know it.
It's very
Never.
true. Hordes of people are gonna be
Chat?
emailing saying, "Don't ever
Chat,
let this
let me
chick
know
on
in the
again."
chat below. Guys, let me know in the chat.
There is no chat below. It's not a stream.
Chat, is this real chat?
All right. So now that we're at the end of the movie, I've got 2 little games that we're gonna play that we do with all the movies. First of all, we're going to test how good your general movie knowledge is, and whether you have a good grasp, not of the movie. I'm not giving you trivia on the movie. I'm talking in general. What we do is I want you to try and tell me what the budget for this film was.
You want me to tell you?
How much movie did they spend? Yeah, I know the number. I wanted to see if you can guess the money that it took them to make this.
How much it took for them to make it?
Correct. What was the budget?
The 80s.
How much money?
It was 86.
It was 86.
I think it was about. I know the answer to this because I actually saw it in a trivia once. I believe it was about 8 million.
It was 8 million.
Yeah. I remember that from a trivia that I did once.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So how about this? Do you know the opposite side? Do you know how much money it made?
How much money did Stand By Me make?
That is the movie we watched. Yeah.
Oh God. Like in total when it came out in theaters?
Correct.
God. I think it was about 50 million, give or take.
You're not looking this up,
I'm
are
not
you?
looking this. Was I right?
I know you really like this movie, but you're
No,
not looking these
no,
numbers up, are you?
Was I right?
This movie box office at $52 million.
Oh, I'm an expert on this movie.
You're in too deep is what I'm hearing.
Christian, you should know this by now as someone who literally, there's a wall that divides us. Like a literal wall that divides our rooms. Like you should know this better than anyone that this movie is like every single word is tattooed in my brain. I know everything about this movie. I watched the anniversary interviews. Like I've seen all the behind the scenes. Like I'm pretty confident in my knowledge of this movie. I didn't realize I knew that much though.
Right.
Or at least I remembered that much from like interviews and like trivias and stuff. Because I'll do that with movies that I really, really like. I'll like look up insert movie trivia. So like Doctor Strange. I've done so much Doctor Strange trivia. It's like pathetic. Stand By Me trivia.
That does sound pathetic. You're
okay.
right.
Wow. That was a lot. like various
Okay.
Quentin Tarantino trivias. Like I'm there.
So second game, a little bit here. Have you ever heard of the website Letterboxd?
Letterbox. I don't think so.
It is a place, a magical place where people go to look up details about movies, people that were involved, the crew, the cast. But most importantly, what we're here for is the reviews that they leave.
Ooh, okay.
So I have a few reviews that people left on letterboxd.com.
Oh, dear.
And what I'm going to have you do is guess how many stars they gave this movie based off of the review that I read.
Okay. So I have to.
Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to read the review and you're going to tell me how many stars it was based off the review.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. I'm ready.
So the first one here is actually the one that, so you can also, like, it's a Facebook post, you can like the review. So this one is the most highly liked review on letterboxd.com. It says, can you just imagine the number of Wattpad fictions there would have been around Gordy and Chris if this movie came out in our time?
Good God. That's a horrible comment because it's true. It's true. And I'm pretty sure if I were to go on like AO3 or Wattpad or like Tumblr or something, and if I looked up those names, I am terrified to see what results I would find. Like, you know what's crazy? I'm pretty sure that there was a pretty decent, like, a big-ish fanfic community of this movie for some strange reason when I was like 15.
I definitely believe it.
It's bad. It's not good. It's weird. So I'm supposed to guess that what I think the rating is. What is it out of 5?
Yeah, it's 1 to 5 stars. Yeah.
Honestly,
they do half stars as well. So keep that in mind.
Honestly,
so anywhere from 0.5 to 5.
That sounds like a 5-star review to me.
That's because it is. That's a 5-star
That's
review.
Really funny.
Yep.
Of course.
Yeah. This person really liked it.
I can tell if they're talking about wanting to write fan fiction. Well, they're not talking about that, but they're implying fan fiction.
Yeah. They're implying that somebody should. Yeah. All right, next one. I've got, what if I cried on your shoulder while we sat next to a dead body? Just kidding. Unless.
That's really funny. That sounds like a maybe 4 or like a 3.5.
It's 3.5 your final answer?
I would say 3.5, yeah. Uh-oh.
Ooh.
I was wrong.
Should have went with your first answer. It was a 4-star review.
Do I get the guillotine now?
No, we got a couple more reviews and then you get the guillotine.
Okay.
Because you're never coming back.
That's not true.
It is. They're never going to want you back.
That's not true and you know it.
Next review is something light and not at all devastating to watch on your 25th birthday.
These comments are so good.
I love Letterboxd reviews.
I might have to doom scroll on this on my leisure time. That's really funny. Something light to take the edge off, it seems.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, like those Marlboros that they were smoking after their charred-ass burgers. Something to wash it down.
Their meals.
I think that's like a 3.5. And that's my gut answer. And I feel like I might be wrong, but it's okay.
You're not
hell
wrong.
Yeah.
That is a 3.5-star review.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So to me, that sounds like, wow, this was a really good movie. But also, I feel like my heart just got ripped out of my chest and stomped on by soccer cleats. And to me, that sounds like a 3.5 review. That's what it sounds like. That's exactly what this person is saying, to me at least.
So next review is going to be, River Phoenix is so sincere and gentle that I feel like he's speaking directly to me when he tells Gordy that he will protect his talent, support him, and fill the space of his dad. It's like there's a wall he's always able to break through to provide a sense of comfort. He is a gift, and I truly feel so loved and seen when I watch him.
Honestly, I ghost wrote that. That sounds like something that I would write.
That sounds exactly like something you would write.
That sounds like a 5-star review. Final answer.
It does sound like a 5-star review, doesn't it?
Oh, no. Man, is it like a 4? 4.5?
No, it's somehow they gave River Phoenix that glowing review, but only said 4 stars.
Really? I'm shocked.
Yep. Yeah.
Honestly,
Insane.
If I were River Phoenix and I read that comment, I'm like, wow, that's so nice. I bet they gave me a 4 stars. That's all you got. Like, what? I'd be offended.
Right. Yeah. So actually, keeping in the same vein of like the same scene that this person was talking about, I've got another review that's similar to it. Fellas, is it gay to wish to be your best friend's dad so you could have fixed his low self-esteem and daddy issues and make him feel proud of himself instead?
The way that my jaw just dropped. The way that my jaw just dropped
And
to the floor.
I know you're not a fella, so you can't really answer the question, but what do you think this
that felt like it came from like a personal place.
So what do you think?
I feel like I just got whiplash from that comment. Holy crap. Okay. I don't even know. I don't know what to believe anymore. I mean, in my heart, in my soul, that feels like a 5-star review or like a 4-star review. That's like a glowing review. It's like, fellas, I mean, again, I'm not a fella, so maybe my opinion doesn't count because I'm a girly, but like mentally, I can try and put myself in a fella mindset for this, for the sake of the argument. So if I was a fella and I was being spoken to as a fella, I think it would be a 4.5-star review. And if it's 5, I'm going to be very upset.
Is that what you want to lock in? I'm just going to say 4.5. You did a good job of stepping into the fella mindset then, because that's a 4.5-star review.
Man, it's a good day to be a fella.
I'm sorry. I just had to take that in for a second. I was like, what is that? What?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So final review here, and then we're going to wrap up. Seriously, what is Goofy though?
Christian, we have to drop this. He's a dog.
This person needs an answer.
Christian, he's a dog. This is a review?
All right, this is a review.
Dude, I thought you were just bringing it up again. No. I'm not giving that any reviews or any guesses because is there a way to comment? Because I will literally make an account and comment back on that.
There is a way to comment.
I'm literally going to do that after we're done. He's a dog.
Yeah,
I'm not. I'm going to bed.
Yeah, you're going to
sleep. Honestly, from that's literally all it says. Like, seriously, what is Goofy?
That's all it says.
Oh my God. That sounds like a 2 or 3. If it's a 5-star review, I'm genuinely gonna
lock in an answer.
I think it's a 2-star review.
You're wrong.
What is it?
It was a 3.5-star review.
That's funny. I love that. A 3.5-star review. All they said, nothing about the movie or what it pertains. What even is Goofy?
Nope.
That's all it is.
Those are usually some of the best reviews. Is reviews that have nothing to do with the film. In actuality,
I bet they were thinking about that the entire film, the entirety of them watching it. That's really funny. Yeah. Personally, I was more hung up on the fact that he chose cherry flavored Pez. Maybe that's just me.
That was insane.
A crazy ass decision.
Completely
insane.
Bonkers. Nonsense. Couldn't relate.
Could never be me.
But yeah, that's
Christian, what would your answer be for that?
If I could only have one food for the rest of my life, or was it like even stuck on a desert island or something like that. Too?
I think remember. It was if you're stuck on a desert island, what food would you want to have?
I think if I didn't have to worry about
regardless of it going bad,
the health effects. No. I think I would probably choose something along the lines of some sort of pasta.
Oh my God, you're so predictable.
Like a cheese-filled pasta, like a ravioli.
I mean, that'll fill you. That'll keep you satisfied.
Yeah, like ravioli or menegote. Something like that, probably. Yeah.
This is not going to come as a shock, but probably something like a kimchi pancake or something. Kimchi pancakes. You can never really go wrong. This is such a me answer.
That makes sense. Very
anything
much so,
with kimchi in it. I'm a kimchi girl. Or anything with no, just give me an entire tub of kimchi and I'll be good. Yeah. Right. No, I think that I would actually, I don't know. Kimchi pancakes are I don't know, some kind of bread so that I don't have to worry about I don't know. It's a really hard question.
Right. Well, you've answered it now.
Kimchi pancake, final answer.
No, got it. Well, with that out of the way, we finished the episode, and I would like to extend one more thank you to Rin for being the patron, giving us money this time around for this. You have facilitated a girl's dream on this day of being on a podcast. So, and that's on, that's
Christian, you're
honestly.
acting like this is the only thing that I've ever lived for. No,
well,
it's
it is.
literally
you told me
not.
that the other day.
He's lying. I would never say that.
You could not stop talking about how this is the prospect of being on the podcast was the only thing keeping
That's
you
literally
going
not
these
true.
days.
I feel like I'm being gaslit right now.
You said
I'm
it,
being
not
gaslit.
me.
Guys, don't listen to him. I'm being gaslit.
If you would like to follow us on social medias, you can do so at Panda Sightings on Instagram and Twitter. If you would like to send us an email, you could send it to us at pandasightings@gmail.com. If you'd like to join Rin and a whole host of other people who give us money on a monthly basis, you can join our Patreon. That's Panda Sightings as well. You can also find the link in the descriptions and or bios of our social medias. If you'd like to join Rin and another host of people, you can join our Discord. There are plenty of people in there of like-minded nature between movie reviews and also our One Piece podcast. And I feel like I'm forgetting something else, but I can't remember right now. So I'm just going to say that that's it. And that it was a pleasure, Tina. I'll never see you again on this podcast.
That's not true, and you know it. Everyone's going to be begging to have me back.
Not
You're
a
going to
single
come
person is
kicking my
going to
door down.
request
You're going to be like, please, 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 please come back to the podcast.
Oh, I'm definitely not going to do that, but
Give the people what they want, Christian.
they don't want this.
They're going to see how fun and silly I am, and they're going to be like, damn, she ate that.
Well, silly for sure. Fun, I don't,
Hey,
remains yet to
silly
be
and
seen.
fun go hand in hand. Yes,
That's
it
not
is.
true. No, you can be silly and not fun for sure.
I'm not one of those people. Tell it to the judge.
All right, stop your recording. We're out of here.
Bye.
Bye.